Good evening and welcome to Courts Today by Live Law. I am Urvashi Chauhan, and in this video we cover major legal developments across the country. From the Supreme Court staying the trial against Elvish Yadav in the snake venom case to quashing a High Court order banning use of CM Stalin's name in a Tamil Nadu scheme. It also includes updates on Rahul Gandhi's defamation case, the Dharamstala gag order challenge, and a plea on voters' deletions in Bihar. Watch till the end and do not forget to like, share and subscribe and hit the bell icon. Spunk Lane Media Private Limited, the parent company of the News Minute web portal, has moved the Karnataka High Court challenging two ex-parte interim gag orders issued by a civil court in Bengaluru in relation to its reporting on the Dharamstala burial case and the alleged murder of a 17-year-old girl. This case, as you know, shocked all of us. This case shocked us all when a former sanitation worker from Dharamstala came forward alleging that between the years 1998 and 2014, he was coerced into secretly burying or burning hundreds of bodies, mostly women and minors. Many exhibited signs of sexual violence, strangulation or torture. He claimed that temple supervisors had issued threats against him. The whistleblower provided skeletal remains, photographs and identity documents including PAN and Aadhaar cards, and has offered to lead investigators to 13 alleged burial sites, provided he receives protection under the Witness Protection Scheme of 2018. The Karnataka government also formed a special investigation team tasked with probing the allegations. While all of this was going on, a Bengaluru court issued a gag order asking media platforms to take down over 8,800 online links related to this burial case, including news reports, videos, and social media posts. This was done after a defamation complaint was filed by a trustee of the temple. You must be aware that last week the High Court set aside a similar gag order against YouTube channel Kudla Rampage and directed the trial court to consider the applications afresh. Well, in its petitions, the News Minute has now contended that the gag order was obtained without due process and was sought to be enforced upon it despite the fact that it was not a party to the suit. The company was referred to vaguely as John Doe despite its clear identity being known to the plaintiffs. The petition highlights how an email received from the respondent claimed that the company had violated the ex parte order through certain articles, although asserting that the articles were not defamatory and that the company was not bound by the suit. Spunk Lane Media temporarily took down the specific content to avoid further complications. However, tensions escalated when on 11th July, the respondents further demanded removal of a video published by the portal. This led to the filing of this present writ petition. The company alleged that the respondents are engaged in forum shopping and systemic harassment, having filed multiple suits across different courts over 18 months to procure gag orders, often without notifying the opposing parties. The plea terms this as an abuse of process and a targeted attempt to silence critical reporting. The company has also challenged a subsequent ex parte injunction dated 18th July this year, passed in another suit initiated by Harshendra Kumar D, who is the brother of Dharamstala Dharmadhikari Virendra Hegde. The company has stated that this second order was passed in complete violation of Order 39 Rule 3 of CPC, which mandates a notice to the opposite party unless delay would defeat the purpose. The petition underscores that the trial court did not record any reason to dispense with the notice to the media outlet. Maintaining that none of the content in question is defamatory, the company asserts that all publications adhere to journalistic norms and standards. It describes the orders as non-speaking and argues that such sweeping gag orders create a chilling effect on press freedom. The company has also relied on the decision in favor of the YouTube channel Kudla Rampage, urging that the same principle be applied to its case as well. Coming to an update on the Bihar electoral roll revision, challenging which many petitions are pending before the top court. In a significant development, the Supreme Court today sought a detailed response from the Election Commission of India over allegations of large-scale deletions in the draft electoral roll in Bihar following the special intensive revision. The draft list published on 1st August allegedly omitted the names of around 65 lakh voters, and the court has asked ECI to clarify the process and basis of these deletions by Saturday. A bench of Justices Suryakant, Ujjal Bhuyan and N.K. Singh was hearing an application filed by the Association for Democratic Reforms, that is ADR. Represented by Advocate Prashant Bhushan, the NGO raised concerns that ECI had failed to disclose identities of omitted voters and had not clarified whether these individuals were deceased reduced or had migrated. Bhushan argued that political parties were not given access to the revised lists at the block level and that there was no transparency about whether the inclusions or omissions were made based on recommendations from the booth level officers. Justice Suryakant highlighted that under ECI's standard operating procedure, all political party representatives are required to be given access to the list at the block level. In response, Bhushan insisted that this protocol had not been followed, and even if some parties had been given access, ECI had failed to provide any reasons or documentation for deletions or additions. Further elaborating, Bhushan submitted that even among the voters who were added to the list, a majority had not submitted the necessary documents. He claimed that more than 75% have not submitted the 11 required documents. He further claimed that BLOs themselves filled up the forms and those forms are undocumented. He added that in some constituencies, around 12% of the entries had not been recommended by BLOs, which, according to him, raises serious concerns about the integrity of the revision process. The ECI's counsel refuted these allegations, arguing that incorrect submissions were being made before the court. He maintained that the draft electoral roll had indeed been shared with political parties prior to its publication, as required by law. At this juncture, Justice Kant questioned why the ECI could not submit all of this information in a formal affidavit. He directed the Commission to submit a comprehensive response, including a list of the political parties to whom the draft roll was shared, so that ADR could verify the matter with the relevant representatives. The bench also emphasized that every potentially affected voter must be given access to the information and that local administrations should also hold relevant records. The court clarified that draft roll was a preliminary list and that reasons for deletions or inclusions would be provided in the final roll. Nevertheless, it stressed the need for full transparency in the process. The matter is now set to be taken up again on 12th August when the court will continue hearing the petitions challenging conduct of the special intensive revision exercise in Bihar. Congress leader and leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, appeared before a special court in Jharkhand in a defamation case related to remarks allegedly made about Union Home Minister Amit Shah. Gandhi appeared today before the special MP-MLA court in Chaibasa, presided over by Judge Supriya Rani Tiga. He surrendered before the court and sought bail in the case. After hearing the matter, the court granted bail to Gandhi. His appearance came in compliance with the prior order insisting on his physical presence. Let me tell you, this case dates back to 2018 when Gandhi, during a Congress convention, allegedly made remarks indirectly referring to Mr. Amit Shah. According to the complainant Pratap Kumar, Gandhi had said that a murderer could never become the national president of the Congress party, further adding that only in the BJP could such a thing happen, referring to the then BJP president Amit Shah. Earlier this year in February, the Chaibasa court had issued a non-bailable warrant against Gandhi for failing to appear. Later in March, the court rejected Gandhi's request to be represented through his lawyer and directed that he must appear in person. Then in June, the Jharkhand High Court granted interim relief to Gandhi till 6th August, subject to the condition that he personally appear before the trial court, which he today did. At today's hearing, Gandhi was present in the courtroom as required. The complainant's counsel reiterated that the alleged remarks had caused reputational harm and were aimed at defaming a senior constitutional authority. Gandhi's counsel maintained that the statements were political in nature and were made in context of a public debate. After hearing both sides, Judge Tiga granted Gandhi bail and adjourned further proceedings. In a significant ruling, the top court has held that alimony received by a woman from her first divorce cannot be considered a relevant factor when determining the alimony payable in the second divorce. The bench, comprising Chief Justice of India B.R. Gawai and Justice K. Vinod Chandran, made this observation while exercising its powers under Article 142 of the Constitution to dissolve a marriage on the ground of irretrievable breakdown. The court was hearing this petition filed by a man seeking quashing of a Section 498 AIPC case filed by his wife, alleging domestic cruelty. Initially, the parties had applied for a mutual consent divorce, but the wife later withdrew her consent. This led the husband to approach the Bombay High Court to quash the criminal proceedings, but the High Court rejected the plea. The husband then approached the Supreme Court, also requesting dissolution of marriage under Article 142. During the proceedings, the husband argued that the wife was not entitled to permanent alimony because she had already received a fair settlement from her first divorce. However, the top court categorically rejected this argument, stating that the alimony received by the wife on the dissolution of her first marriage is not a relevant consideration. In terms of settlement, the husband offered to transfer ownership of his flat in Kalpataru Habitat in Mumbai, valued at 4 crores, or alternatively pay 4 crores in cash. The wife, however, demanded a higher amount of 12 crores as permanent alimony. She also pointed to the husband's LinkedIn profile to show that he was still employed. Countering this, the husband submitted that he was currently unemployed, having left his job in a private bank to take care of his autistic child from a previous marriage. The Supreme Court found the husband's offer reasonable in light of the circumstances, including his current financial status, his parenting responsibilities, and the short duration of the marriage, which lasted only 1 year and 9 months before separation. It observed that the gift of the Mumbai flat was sufficient to meet the wife's post-divorce needs. And further claim of alimony, the court said, was not justified, especially looking at the husband's status, which as of now is of an unemployed person. Additionally, the court noted that the wife was gainfully employed in the information technology sector with the educational qualifications and experience to support herself financially. Quashing the 498A IPC case, the court found that the allegations were vague and exaggerated, amounting to ordinary marital discord rather than cruelty. It directed the husband to execute the gift deed of the flat by 30th August, after which the divorce will take effect. Jailed Baramulla MP engineer Rashid has approached the Delhi High Court seeking modification of an earlier order that directed him to pay around 4 lakh in costs to be allowed custody parole for attending the parliament. Rashid, who was elected in the Lok Sabha 2024 elections from Baramulla, has been lodged in Tihar jail since 2019 after being arrested by the NIA under Unlawful Activities Prevention Act in a 2017 terror funding case. He is the founder of Awami Ittehad Party, a regional party in Jammu and Kashmir. But in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, he contested and won as an independent candidate from the Baramulla constituency since he was in jail and his party is not a recognized national or state party. Today, appearing before a division bench of Justice Vivek Chaudhary and Justice Anup Jairam Bhambani, his counsel, Senior Advocate N. Hariharan, contended that the condition was unjust and unreasonable as it prevented an elected representative from fulfilling his parliamentary duties solely due to financial constraints. He argued that the original request was only for custody parole and that the cost condition was imposed unilaterally by the court without any arguments being made on expenses. The bench questioned whether such a plea could be treated as a modification and not a review, especially since the earlier order was passed by a coordinate bench. Senior Advocate Siddharth Luthra, appearing for the National Investigation Agency, asserted that the order was a consent order agreed upon by Rashid. But Hariharan rejected this, clarifying that the consent was only given for attending parliament under custody, not for paying the amount imposed. Justice Bhambani noted that whenever custody parole is granted, the expenses are generally borne by the applicant, and raised concerns about whether such operational matters like the cost of deploying security personnel were justiciable. He referenced the Supreme Court's decision in the Tahir Hussain case to support the practice of imposing such conditions. Hariharan, however, emphasized the constitutional stakes, arguing that if Rashid cannot afford to pay the daily expenses, his right to represent his constituency is being curtailed, thereby undermining democratic principles. He pointed out that no such expenses were demanded when Rashid was allowed to attend parliament previously and alleged that the conditions now appeared designed to suppress the voice of Baramulla's electorate. He further clarified that the plea was not a review of the original order, since the issue of costs was not argued before the coordinate bench, and that the current request was limited to modifying an erroneous condition that defeats the purpose of the custody parole. The court has now posted the matter for further hearing on 12th August. In a relief to the Tamil Nadu government and Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, the Supreme Court has set aside a Madras High Court order, one that barred the use of Stalin's name in a welfare awareness campaign. The case relates to the Ungalludan Stalin campaign launched by the DMK-led Tamil Nadu government in June. The scheme aims to spread awareness about government welfare programs at the doorstep level. But AIADMK MP C.V. Shanmugam filed a petition in the Madras High Court objecting to the use of Chief Minister's name and image for a government campaign. The High Court had then passed an interim order restraining the use of name or photograph of any living political figure or party symbol in such welfare schemes. But the Supreme Court was not convinced. A bench of CJI B.R. Gavai, Justice K. Vinod Chandran and Justice N.V. Anjaria said that schemes in the names of political leaders exist across the country. Singling out one party and one leader shows the petitioner's intention here. Senior advocate Mukul Rohtagi, appearing for Tamil Nadu government, argued that there was nothing unusual or unlawful about naming a scheme after a serving chief minister. He pointed out that such practices were common across the country and referred to similar schemes launched under previous governments. Senior advocate Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi also contended on behalf of the state that the scheme was entirely administrative in nature and was intended to raise awareness about welfare entitlements and not for any political mileage. He also highlighted that Madras High Court's interim order had overreached and that the naming of the scheme did not violate top court's ruling in the common cause case. Senior advocate P. Wilson, appearing for DMK, pointed out that the petitioner had moved the court with political motives and selectively targeted only one party. He highlighted that during the AIADMK regime, welfare schemes had been launched under the name and image of former Chief Minister Jayalalitha, yet no similar objection had been raised then. The bench questioned the intent behind the PIL and observed that the petition seemed to be politically motivated. Chief Justice Gavai remarked that schemes across India, including those run by the central government, often carry the names or images of current political leaders and that there was no reason to isolate this state or one leader only. The court expressed strong disapproval of the petitioner's conduct in this case, noting that he had approached the High Court within just 3 days of writing to the Election Commission without waiting for any response. The court said that this amounted to an abuse of the process of law. When the counsel for the petitioner began to argue, the bench warned that the more time he took, the higher the cost might be, eventually imposing a 10 lakh penalty to be used for the welfare of the underprivileged in Tamil Nadu. The court also suggested that the High Court's interim order was not legally sustainable and had implications beyond the immediate case. Thus, the top court has set aside the High Court's interim order, dismissed the PIL in its entirety, and directed the petitioner to deposit 10 lakh with the Tamil Nadu government within a week. The Supreme Court has today granted a stay on the trial court proceedings against YouTuber and Bigg Boss winner Elvish Yadav in a case accusing him of misusing snakes and snake venom in a video shoot and being allegedly linked to rave parties involving drug use and illegal wildlife trade. A bench of Justices M.M. Saundaresh and Joy Malia Bagchi issued notice in Yadav's plea challenging the Allahabad High Court's May 2025 order that had refused to quash the charge sheet and summoning order against him. Yadav has been booked under several sections of the Wildlife Protection Act, IPC and the NDPS Act. The court tagged the matter with another case by the original complainant in this case seeking protection, which is kept for hearing on 29th August. Yadav's counsel, Senior Advocate Mukta Gupta, then urged the bench to stay the proceedings in the meantime, especially because the case was listed before the trial court for framing of charges on Friday. Gupta submitted that the NDPS charges were baseless and statutory procedures had not been followed. Let me also tell you here that before the Allahabad High Court, Senior Advocate Naveen Sinha appeared for Yadav and contended that the FIR was fundamentally flawed. He argued that the informant was not authorized to file a complaint under the Wildlife Act, as he was no longer serving as an animal welfare officer at the time of filing the FIR. Sinha stated that there had been no recovery of any snakes or narcotics from Yadav and that he had not even attended the party where the alleged offences took place. It was also submitted that Yadav's arrest was a result of media pressure due to his fame as a public personality. The defense also pointed out that certain NDPS charges were added after his arrest in an attempt to sensationalize the case but were later dropped due to lack of evidence. Yadav's lawyers maintained that he had merely been approached to shoot a music video involving snakes and that the reptiles used were non-poisonous pets owned by the producers. They stressed that no harm had been caused to any animal or person and thus the applicability of the Wildlife Protection Act and NDPS Act was questionable. However, the state, represented by Additional Advocate General Manish Goyal, had countered these arguments before the High Court. He had submitted that investigation showed Yadav had supplied the snakes to those from whom they were eventually recovered. Goyal argued that Yadav's claims were part of his defense and should be tested during trial, not at the pre-trial stage. The state asserted that a prima facie case had indeed been established. Also, let me tell you, the High Court was not convinced by the defense. It ruled that the allegations made in the FIR and the charge sheet were serious enough to be examined during trial and that there was no legal ground to quash the proceedings. The court also noted that Yadav had not directly challenged the FIR and observed that his public profile or popularity could not be the basis for granting any special protection. Well, with the Supreme Court now granting a stay, Yadav has some relief for now. However, the broader issues of celebrity accountability, due process, and the legality of evidence in such high-profile cases continue to remain a sharp public and judicial focus.